Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off today's video with a wild story about a woman who completely loses it in a Walmart over something that was 100% her own fault. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Mistaken for a Walmart manager? I let Karen dig her own grave. This just happened. I'm still laughing, actually. So my job requires business casual, so I dress fairly well. Never been mistaken for an employee, though. I was grabbing some stuff for the day at a local Walmart in a town I grew up in. Haven't lived there for at least 20 years, but my job requires traveling, so here I was back in my hometown. I grabbed some stuff to feed me on the drive back to HQ, and as I walked towards the checkout, some lady just barrels up to me yelling about an employee. Convo went like this. Karen: "You need to deal with this useless employee of yours." Me: "I'm sorry, I don't. Karen: "Now!" She grabs my arm and pulls me over to this poor kid who couldn't have been older than 16 and had a terrified look on his face. He was in ripped jeans and a blue hoodie, so obviously he doesn't work there either. Karen: "This horrible child won't get me the headphones I want out of the case. He's ruining my baby's birthday." Me: "Ma'am, as I said, I don't work here, and it looks like this kid doesn't either." Karen: "Don't you lie to me and try to cover for this bad employee. I want him fired." She got so loud that a manager did hear her and walked over. Manager: "What seems to be the issue, ma'am?" Karen: "This employee," pointing at kid, "won't get me my headphones, and this," pointing at me, "useless manager won't do anything about it." Manager looks at kid, then me, and lo and behold, we know each other. Manager: "Hey, OP, haven't seen you since graduating. Heard you live in place I currently live. What brings you back?" Karen: "Stop lying. They both work here, and you will fire them." Manager: "Ma'am, just because someone wears blue or dresses nicely doesn't mean they work here. And if you continue to harass other customers, I'll have to ask you to leave." Manager looks at kid and says, "I'm sorry, son. Go on about your business. You did nothing wrong." So the poor kid ran off looking very relieved, being out of the situation. Karen wasn't done, though. Karen: "I want my headphones now. I will be leaving a bad review on Yelp about your horrible customer service and bad employees." Manager: "Ma'am, you can leave any kind of review you'd like. Headphones are in the electronic department, and I'll page someone to meet you there. But in no way will you find headphones in the produce section." I was trying so hard not to laugh. I'm getting an update later from the manager since he asked for my number so we could chat sometime. Update: Mark, the manager, called me a bit ago. Karen pulled a Karen in electronics because they didn't have the headphones in the color that she wanted. She stormed out and called to file a complaint about an hour later. His boss reviewed the camera footage and knew Karen was full of it. Apparently, she said she threatened to hit her with his gang backing him up. And the poor kid, that was her nephew. She called him to verify things, and he confirmed she was a Karen. They're considering banning her completely, but it's a small town and the only big store, so it's up in the air. But for now, she's gotten a 30-day ban pending review. Guess you'll have to drive 3 hours to the next closest store to get those headphones. And our second story. A Great Wheelie Bin War, a tale of silent retribution. I'm a student living in a shared house with students next door to me on both sides, albeit in a primarily local neighborhood. As a house, we don't tend to have much to do with our fellow student neighbors and simply engage in a mostly peaceful coexistence most of the time. They do their thing and we do our thing. But this all changed one day when walking home from uni, I noticed that one of our green wheelie bins had gone missing. Odd, I thought to myself, that something so large and bulky could just go missing. Upon further inspection, I noticed that the neighbors at number 22 on our left-hand side had somehow acquired an extra green wheelie bin with our house number on it. For reasons beyond my control, the house I moved into came with 2 green wheelie bins labeled with our house number, while our neighbors only had 1. However, that's our bin by right, and they must live with the inconvenience that fate chose for them. This called for a house meeting where we must decide how to answer their transgression. After some discussion, it was decided that we're all far too British to go and knock on their door and ask for our bin back. No, that would make us seem like some sort of psychopaths that count their bins every night. We concluded that we would give them an arbitrary amount of time to correct what may have been an honest mistake themselves, for if it were indeed an accident, they'd be quick to put it right, before taking matters into our own hands. However, that day did not come to pass, so in the most British way possible, my housemate got drunk with her sister one night to work up the liquid courage to take it back in the dead of the night. Our heroine returned victorious, and we would enjoy many more months of relative peace. Until it happened again. Oh yes, out of the blue, one day our Ben somehow ended up back on the driveway of the unworthy, in full view of our kitchen window, the green bin saying number 24 was taunting us. There are only so many times you can accidentally steal your neighbor's bins, and that's once. You know what they say, fool me once. The repeated transgression, the placement in view of our window, this was no accident. It's clear that number 22 not only covets our bin, but were insulting us. Our response this time must be much more firm to teach them that it's not okay to steal from us. Two factions emerged in the House Council. The first, let's call them naysayers, believe that they should just take back our bin and leave it at that. We don't want to be on bad terms with them, they reasoned. The second faction, the one I happen to belong to, let's call the wild cards, had a different idea. We cannot just take back our bin, and their repeated defenses make it clear that they do not wish for peaceful relations with us. What must be done is to put them in our place and show them nobody messes with number 24. The wild cards won the debate, and by nightfall the war was on. Bravely, we snuck out into the pitch black and wheeled away all of number 22's bins to our drive, in view of their kitchen window this time. Not only did we reclaim our green bin, but also their green bin, their black bin, and even their brown bin. They had no bins left. They were thoroughly disgraced, and by morning, they would receive our message. What followed that fateful evening was a relatively quiet morning, and when we woke up from our slumber, balance had been restored. We had 4 bins, and they had 3. Not a word was exchanged between either party, and it's apparent that we are perhaps entering a new we of peace. The war of the wheelie bins was won. I love that there were 2 factions, like a mini Game of Thrones council, debating how to handle bin warfare. And our next story. Karen demanded my parking spot, then got herself arrested. I bought my house a few years ago, and one of the main things I loved about it was the location. It's close to my job, the neighborhood's nice, and it's within walking distance of a school. What I didn't realize at the time was that living near a school also meant dealing with the absolute chaos that is pick-up and drop-off time. Parents roll up early, double park, block driveways, and sometimes even leave their cars running in the middle of the street while they run to grab their kids. It's an absolute nightmare. But hey, I figured it was a minor inconvenience and that most people would be reasonable about it. Enter Karen. I didn't know her name at first, obviously, but she made her presence known pretty quickly. She showed up at my door one afternoon while I was bringing groceries in and started going off about how I shouldn't be parking on the street in front of my own house because that spot should be reserved for parents picking up their kids. I honestly thought she was joking at first. Me, what? Karen, you live here, you have a driveway, parents need that spot for pickup. Me, it's public parking, I can park wherever I want. Karen, no, this is for school pickup, we've always used this spot. I didn't have time for her nonsense, so I just told her I wasn't moving my car and went inside. I figured that was the end of it. It was not. The next day, I come outside to find Karen standing near my car talking to a cop. Turns out she'd gone to one of the officers on school duty and told him some story to get him to come with her. No idea what she said, but when the officer found out this was just about my legally parked car, he looked so done. Cop car, sigh. Ma'am, his car is legally parked. Karen, but it's always been used for school pickup. He's being selfish. Cop, to me, you're fine. Don't worry about it. At this point, I was already pissed, but what Karen said next made my blood boil. Karen, it'd be a shame if something happened to your car because you refused to move it. Before I could even open my mouth, the cop stepped in. Cop, did you just threaten him? Karen, I didn't mean it like that. Cop, if anything happens to his car, you are our first and only suspect. Get in your car and leave, now. She huffed, but she left. I thought that'd be the end of it. I was wrong again. After that, the school stationed an officer closer to my house during arrival and dismissal times. Other parents were not happy about it because now there was a cop cracking down on all illegal parking. Karen had essentially ruined the setup for everyone. A few weeks later, I came home from work to find a huge scratch running the entire length of my car. I immediately checked my security cameras, and there she was. Karen, in broad daylight, keying my car like she had nothing to lose. I called the non-emergency police line, and when the responding officer showed up, it was the same cop who'd warned Karen before. He watched the footage, let out a deep sigh, and said, "Well, that's about the dumbest thing she could have done." He went straight to her house. Karen tried to deny everything, but when he told her I had crystal clear video evidence, she started sobbing, claiming that I had forced her hand by not giving up my parking spot. Long story short, Karen got arrested. She was charged with vandalism and criminal mischief, and I took her to small claims court to cover the cost of repainting my car. She lost. The judge ordered her to pay for the full cost of repairs, court fees, and a little extra for the inconvenience she caused me. From what I heard, her husband was furious when he found out about the whole situation, especially since she'd tried to hide it from him. A few months later, Karen and her family moved out of the neighborhood. Whether it was because of the embarrassment, the legal trouble, or just the complete lack of support from other parents who now hated her guts, I have no idea. All I know is that ever since she left, pickup and drop-off times have been so much more peaceful. In the end, my car got fixed, the cop got rid of a menace, and Karen got exactly what she deserved. She single-handedly ruined pickup and drop-off for all the other parents by drawing the cops' attention. That's instant karma served on a silver platter. And our last story. Swimming pool? No! In sunny Palm Grove, Florida, stood a tidy house with a turquoise pool where Grandpa Paul Reeves spent every dawn. First, 3 laps of freestyle swimming, then a strong cup of coffee under the palm trees. The neighbors thought he was just a grumpy retiree, kept to himself, sported a buzz cut, and only acknowledged the mailman and the lady from the farmer's market. But Paul's peace was constantly disturbed by 3 local TikTokers, Brandon Vape, Kyle Keg, and Tyler DJ. The boys liked his pool more than their own showers, climbing over the white fence, spilling Bud Light, filming stories with the tropical vibes filter, and #borrowedpool. One day, Paul got up from his lounger, grabbed a garden hose, and without raising his voice said, "Boys, splashing around isn't a crime, but trespassing is. I suggest you leave." They backed off, but a few days later returned with a plan for epic revenge. Late at night, hiding in the hibiscus shadows, they tossed bags of trophies from the nearby dog park into the pool. The chlorinated water turned into a fragrant swamp, and even the local alligators refused to come near. The next morning, Paul quietly drained the pool, cleaned his swimming goggles, and made a few phone calls. From that moment on, he acted like nothing had happened, mowed the lawn, fed the iguanas, and even politely nodded to the pranksters when they passed by on skateboards. The boys assumed the old man had given up, so they came back to film a final clip about getting off scot-free. But as soon as they splashed into the water, floodlights lit up the pool, a loudspeaker blared, and 2 patrol cars rolled out from behind the bushes, along with a stern detective, Mark Reeves. He showed the boys a tablet with crystal clear night footage of their organic sabotage. "If you're wondering, I didn't install the cameras," the detective smiled. "That was my dad's work. He used to run the whole department. So boys, you just played hide and seek with the former chief of police." The teens turned paler than their vape manicure lamps. The judge, barely holding back laughter, sentenced each of them to 150 hours of community service at the same dog park. Now, every morning, Brandon, Kyle, and Tyler in neon vests labeled Poop Patrol diligently collect souvenirs into giant bags, while tourists snap selfies under a sign that reads, "Thank you for keeping it clean." As for Paul, he swims peacefully in his crystal clear pool, and upon hearing the boys' distant grumbling, raises a glass of lemonade. To fresh breezes and justice, my friends. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.